In this video, I'm going to show you how to create your own workflow. So when you're running an analysis over and over in Galaxy, you might want to consider using a workflow. What that is a way to get your tools chained together how you like to run them. So to create a workflow, you want to go to the workflow management view by clicking here on workflow. Then you want to click on create a new workflow. Then you want to name your workflow something, a bit specific. And create. And this gets you to the workflow editor. In this view, you have access to all of the tools here on the left side panel, on all of the tools that exist in ImmPort Galaxy. And the right side panel will have details of all of the tools that you decide to put in your workflow. So for instance, let's say I want a workflow that does, let's say I want something that does this, that uses this, and then this. Okay. So those are three tools. One extracts the keywords from a FCS binary file. One converts this binary file to text, and one checks the data in a text file. So the only thing that's missing here in my workflow is the input. And you can choose here the type of input you want for your workflow. So either a single file, which in Galaxy is called a dataset, or a set of files, which is a dataset collection. So in this case, I'm going to say that the input is a single file. And this is going to be the first step of my workflow. So to chain those tools together, you can click here on the circle here, and then just drag to the next step in your workflow. So it's really straightforward. And your workflows do not have to be linear. You can set up tools so that they run in parallel. So here, for instance, in this workflow, I can have it extract the keywords of the FCS files, and at the same time convert that FCS file to text, and then check the data in that FCS file. The other thing that's worth noting is in this right side panel here, you have access to the options that you have in those tools, but you can also set them so that there is a value by default, or so that when you run your workflow, you have to pick what options you want to run, what you want to have for your tool. So the extract keyword tool does not have any options, and check data does not have any either, but this one does. So you can choose to compensate, you can choose to get debris, and you can choose whether or not you want an FCS file as an output. So let's say that I want to compensate every single time, so I'm going to say yes. And let's say that I want this to be an option for users. So I'm going to set it at runtime, and I'm going to set this at runtime as well. Okay, so this is my workflow. It's done. So now I can save it. And to save it, I just click on the cog icon here and then save. And then from here, I can go back to my main view. And if I go click on all workflows, now you can see that your test workflow is up here. And if you want to run it, you just have to click on it. And here you will be able to select your data set. I don't have any in my history here that I can use, so I can't really show you. But to go back to this idea of options, here, that first option, whether or not to compensate, was set by default to true. If you really want to change it, you can still edit it here when you run your workflow by clicking here on that pencil. And that allows you to choose whether or not you want to compensate. And those two other options, we had it set at runtime. So what that means is that every time you run your workflow, you'll have to pick whatever you want to do for those options. And yeah, and that's really it. Once you've created a workflow, you might be interested in sharing it with other users, or making it publicly available on ImmPort Galaxy. So to do that, you want to go back to the workflow view and click on that arrow here next to the name of your workflow. and then you can choose share or publish. And this is kind of like, it's exactly the same thing that when you share a history. So you can make it accessible via link. So this is the link that you would send your colleagues. You can publish it to the Galaxy instance, or you can share it with the user. Except, well, on this specific instance, there are no other users, so I can't really show you. But if there were other users, you would select it in that dropdown, and then hit share. Yeah, and that's really it.